Hello, this is Wicked the Alien, and this is...
This is Gwen the Ducky. Welcome to another installment of the Ducky Alien Files. Tonight we are going to be covering the unsung heroes of Flight 11.
Yeah,
Now, most of you know what went down on September 11th, 2001, right?
yes,
You know, the terrorists hijacking planes and hitting the Twin Towers,
and the
causing,
Pentagon.
yeah, causing a lot of death in the process.
Yeah,
There were plenty of unsung heroes in this story. This video is going to be a little bittersweet. It's going to be, we want to end this on a special note. We'll not permanently end the channel, obviously. We're going to be taking a summer break. To end these run of videos before the summer break, we got to do something on a more bittersweet, special scale. So for this
yeah,
video, we're going to be covering the events of 9/11 and the unsung heroes behind them. That is being the flight attendants that were on that plane that day, as well as the most prominent people that
and
have
the
passed
hijack.
away. Passed away because of events. I would like to talk about the flight attendants first
Yes,
and how they stood out to either of us. So, Wicked, which of those flight attendants stood out to you the most?
Barbie Arrestigwe. I don't think I may have mispronounced her name, but she was... A little story I must tell you is she's my guardian angel when it comes to picking my battles.
And what do you mean by that?
I had a dream one time where I was at baggage claim, and she came up to me and said, it'd be a lot easier to let things go and stuff, instead of being angry all the time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So what you're saying is you actually personally knew her.
From a dream, in a
Yes. Oh,
dream,
in a
yes.
dream. Yeah. Okay.
And she said, let go of, in the dream, she said, let go of any anger or anything that's not worth it. Walk away if you can. And I'm still trying to heed that knowledge.
That is actually the best advice that anyone could ever give to somebody, let alone the
Someone
a
in the
flight
spirit
attendant.
world.
Yes,
Even in the spirit world.
absolutely. That is actually a very unique take on this situation, believe it or not.
Yes. Sorry for laughing. I didn't mean to laugh, but I was having a bad day that day, and then poof, the dream came, and then she was there. She said she would guide me through my temperaments, let's put it that way, my anger, and try to shift through what's worth it, what isn't worth it.
In this case, what isn't worth it was the
Usually are
terrorist
the...
hijacking the
Yeah,
planes and
yes, that's true.
yes, and the bloodshed that it ultimately led to.
Yeah, those illiterate and stuff.
Yes, we're not going to name the two people involved as they don't really deserve the attention, especially in this
No, they
video.
don't deserve Jack Poopy.
Yeah, Jack Poopy. We're focusing on the victims as well as the flight attendants that, before they
Yeah,
died, did some heroic acts. So let's keep it that way. Oh,
certainly. I want to keep it that way. I don't care about the knuckleheads.
yeah, there's another one that stood out to me as well. It is one named Betty Ong. Betty Ong.
I've heard of...
Yes, Betty Ann Ong. She was also a flight attendant for Flight 11 on American Airlines,
That's okay.
which was the
Yep.
first airplane hijacked during the attacks, by the way. What's most
Yes.
notable about her was she was the first person to alert authorities to the hijackings that occurred that day.
Yes, that's very brave of her.
Absolutely. Till her final gasp, man, was she a hero. And
For
speaking of which,
telling it
yes,
as it is.
that's right. And there's this YouTube comment that struck out to me as I was reading the comments. It said this: Betty Ong. Some may not know this, But this lady is the first person on almost every person's lips outside of the USA, and the one name that brings a tear to a lot of non-American hearts. Even today, here in my country, Australia, that's where this particular commenter is from, this lady is possibly the person who we all know. May she rest in peace. Also, may her family one day know that in our global family, we all love and miss her. I'm pretty sure they
Yes.
know already and appreciate it. To that, we thank you for that comment, sir.
Or ma'am.
Right, or ma'am. That's a very
Yeah.
insightful comment indeed. Man.
Yeah. They will be missed.
Indeed. And then there is yet another comment that stood out to me, and this is in regards to Madeline Amy Sweeney.
I've
She was
heard
an
of her.
yes, she was also one of the attendants who were killed on that particular flight. Flight.
Yep.
Rumor has it, well, it's been proven that her distress call was not recorded, but there is a reconstruction in Madame Morbid's video. If you guys want to check it out, that is the basis of our video for tonight, by the way. So if you want to check out that video below, link will be in the description.
Okay. I brought Gwen's attention to that video.
Yes, I thought it was really interesting, and quite it's quite a great perspective on the events, really.
Yeah.
So here's a comment pertaining to her now. Amy wasn't even supposed to be on that flight, but she was called last minute to take the shift as a crew member was sick. And it was said by her husband that she was dreading going to work that day as she was missing out on seeing her 5-year-old daughter go to kindergarten. Aw, who could blame her?
And yeah, I don't blame her on that one.
And then a comment from the OP of the video said that a couple of the crew members weren't originally supposed to work that day either.
Interesting how fate works.
Yeah, and there's yet another reply to that particular comment, and it involves Betty Ong. It said that she was working overtime too that day.
Yep.
Wow.
Overtime is what.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Anyway, more details will be in the original video of their act of heroism that saved a lot of people that day. Yeah. So now we're gonna, before we transition, do you have another flight attendant that stood out to you that weren't already mentioned?
I think it was just Resegway.
Okie doke.
Yeah, she was the only one because came to me in a dream after I had a very bad day in school, and she said just let the anger go because I must tell you I've been a war victim myself. I'm still alive, obviously, but she can feel my pain, and she said just let it go. And gradually, I'm learning how to do that through therapy and stuff.
So basically, in other words, her spirit lives on in the dreams of Wicked. It lives on in Wicked, period.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, it is true indeed. So now we're gonna go to the more prominent victims of the Flight 9/11 hijacking, or rather the September 11th attacks. So first off, I would like to mention David Angle. Now, David Angle was known as the creator of the comedy show Frasier. Frasier is a spin-off of the comedy show Cheers.
Yes, I've heard of that show. I try to avoid, what is it, Seinfeld or Frasier? Oh, Frasier, yes.
Personally, I thought Frasier was a good show. I've only watched a handful of episodes of it for the most part.
Me too. It was okay, but anyways.
Yes, he also created other sitcoms like Wings as well. And get this, he was a multiple Emmy Award winner.
Wow. Yes, I remember hearing about that.
So you can only imagine the shock that everyone must have felt when they found out about him being part of the victims of 9/11. And what's even more sad about it is that his wife was also with him on the flights.
Oh, damn. Also his wife, too?
Yes, Lynn Engel to be exact.
Fidget spinner.
They,
Flipper.
yeah, they were married since 1971. They were a long-time married couple.
Oh,
Man,
long-time married couple. That's good. Well, I wish they were still with us.
same here. They were a true testament as to how a marriage should be. Obviously, it seems like they had a really healthy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now we're gonna go to Danny Lee, who was also one of the victims of 9/11. Danny Lee was a roadie for the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, yeah, I heard about him. Yes, he was I liked the Backstreet Boys when I was a kid, but anyways, he was a roadie for them? That was interesting.
He was a roadie for the Backstreet Boys. So I imagine this was also a blow to the fans of the Backstreet
Backstreet
Boys when he was
Boys.
found to be
Yeah.
one of the victims of the flight, or rather the events of 9/11 2001.
Yep.
The reason he boarded Flight 11 was he wanted to see the birth of his second child, who would ultimately turn out to be a daughter named Allison Danielle. She weighed 8 pounds and 12 ounces. She was born 2 days after that fateful day. So,
Mm. Two
yeah.
days, the 13th of September.
Yep, September 13th, 2001. I can only imagine how painful it was to have to grow up without a dad, all because
Mm-hmm.
of
A
what
few days.
transpired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
But however, I'm sure that the spirit of her father is watching over her as she navigates through life. Same with
Yeah,
his wife, and especially the Backstreet Boys, too. I can only imagine
yeah.
how the band felt.
Oh god, I can just imagine that. I
Yeah.
have a sort of an idea.
And get this, his wife, whose name is Kelly, she prayed that her husband had missed Flight 11, which obviously, unfortunately, did not happen. She was really
Uh,
hoping he would miss that flight because somehow it's like she
yeah,
knew that something bad was going to happen to him if he didn't cancel that flight. And those feelings
and,
were confirmed.
and yes,
Intuition,
what?
I guess.
Yes, intuition and Murphy's law. What will go wrong can go wrong.
And get this, he was only 34 years old.
I'm older than him now. That's sad.
It is indeed. Yeah, it is indeed.
Yep.
And we're just taking a moment of silence right now. Oh yeah, and there's an interesting comment at the end of the LA Times article on Danny Lee. Man, I'll tell you, we're all just devastated out here, said tour manager Marty Home. He was their tour manager, that is the Backstreet Boys tour manager. What we do out here is not really important. It's entertainment. What he was going home for, that was really important. Honestly, that should be the mentality of every single manager and record company for that matter out there when it comes to
They're
things like this.
employees.
Yes, we shouldn't sacrifice something for something that's unimportant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
But
this story
something that,
is, sorry, this story is proof. It really is, and this is a great tragedy right there. And then next up, we got Daniel Lewin. Daniel Lewin,
yes.
he was a veteran. He was a
Veteran.
veteran. Yes, he was an American War veteran.
Oh, interesting.
And he was also noted as the first man to die on 9/11.
Oh boy.
He was
First
only
dude.
31 years old. He was only 31 years old.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch indeed, man. Ouch indeed. Get this, he was part of the IDF counterterrorism unit known as
Oh,
Sayeret Matkal.
oh,
And
he was in the Israeli army.
he was in the Israeli army, and not only that, he was also a mathematician.
Oh, something I couldn't do is math.
Now, background on Daniel Lewin. He was born on May 14th, 1970, which also happens to be the 22nd Independence Day of Israel in Denver, Colorado. He had a happy childhood with his parents and two brothers. And get this, he first arrived in Israel at the age of 14.
Oh, interesting.
And that act of immigration was known as Aliyah.
Alaya, yes, I've heard of that term.
Which basically it's the act of Jewish immigration to Israel. And
Interesting.
yeah, like most immigrants, it was difficult to adapt to the new culture, but little by little, he ended up falling in love with the country.
Israel?
Yep, Israel.
That's good.
He, like I said earlier, he was a mathematician, and his other passion was computer science.
Science. Good.
Indeed, and he tried out for one of the most prestigious units of the IDF, the Sayeret Matkal. And in order to be recruited into the Sayeret Matkal, one has to go through a unique selection process. But he was determined, and his determination paid off as he succeeded in the selection process, was accepted, and served in the unit for 4 years. And he even became an officer,
Oh, good.
as mentioned by a fellow soldier by the name of Gadi Haviv. I remembered how broken his Hebrew was at first. It always made me smile. Then I realized that he was simply a genius. He was not only a strong guy, he was brilliant.
Wow.
After his military service, Daniel worked as a researcher at the Technion, sorry if I butcher it, Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa. His work there was highly appreciated. Despite his busy schedule, he found the time to dedicate himself to a full-time research position at IBM. However, Daniel was not just a skilled researcher, he was also a devoted husband to Anna's two sons, Itamar and Aiden. So you can see why he was one of the most prominent of the victims. Not necessarily a celebrity, he was a regular guy just like everyone else, but his
Because of
it's because of his service to the IDF that made him the most one of the most prominent of the victims of 9/11.
I guess
And
he was
yeah,
also targeted because he was Israeli.
we wouldn't know that for sure. It hasn't been confirmed. Remember, this
Uh,
was 2001,
yeah,
so
well, I'm guessing things weren't too cozy there either back then.
yes, probably. But here's the more important part. On September 11th, 2001, Daniel was on his way to a business trip in Los Angeles. He was sitting in business class, dressed modestly in Gap jeans and a simple t-shirt. It is impossible to know exactly what occurred on that flight, but according to an FBI report and flight attendant records, Daniel tried to stop the two Al-Qaeda terrorists in front of him. He was seated in row 9, but the passenger behind him, the third terrorist, stabbed him. That makes Daniel the first victim of 9/11. He was only 31 years old.
Jesus H. Crying out loud.
Very young. Absolutely. Very young.
Very young, just a baby.
Very. He was. By today's standards, he was.
Yes.
Mm. Yes. Well, there's an interesting. Back to the flight attendant. So there's an interesting post on Reddit that I just stumbled across just now. Why
Okay.
isn't Madeline Amy Sweeney's phone call released, but Betty Ong's is?
I don't
We,
get that.
yeah,
Yes.
we did mention this earlier that Madeline Sweeney's phone call wasn't released, but we will give you the short gist of it. The transcript read out as ending in, "We're flying low. We're flying very, very low. OMG, we're flying way too low."
Yep. I remember those words.
Apparently, according to another user, the center she called didn't have the ability to record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who knows what would happen. And then there were other flight attendants besides Barbara Aretskoy, Kathleen Nicosia, Betty Ong, and Amy
And
Sweeney.
Sweeney.
Yeah, there was also Jeffrey Coleman, Sarah Lowe, Kathleen Nicosia, Gene Roger, and Dianne Snyder.
Interesting.
Yeah, their names deserve to be remembered as well, really.
Yes.
And
That's true.
yeah. The captain of the flight was John Ogonowski, who was 50 years old at the time of the events. And then Thomas McGinnis Jr. was first officer. He was 42 at the time of the events.
Yep. 42, still a baby.
Right. Yeah. And then there's the list of the cabin crew here. Catherine Martin, age 40. Kathleen Nicosa, age 54. Betty Ong, 45. Dianne Snyder, 42. Barbara Arestigoy, if I pronounced her name incorrectly, I'm sorry, 38. Jeffrey Coleman, 41. Sarah Lowe, 29. Gene Roger, only 24 years old. Madeline Sweeney, 35.
Uh-oh, my age.
Yeah. So Karen
Dang.
Martin was on the first class cabin. Kathleen Nicosia was on coach class galley. Betty Ong was on the coach class cabin. Dianne Snyder was on the business class galley. Barbara Arestguife was on first class galley. Jeffrey Coleman was on coach class cabin, assist first class cabin if needed. Sarah Lowe, business class cabin. Gene Roger, also on business class cabin. And lastly, Madeline Sweeney on coach class cabin, which was also the same as Betty Ong.
Interesting.
Yeah. Done. As was mentioned in a video, Barry Berenson, who was the widow of Anthony Perkins, were part of the casualties. In my opinion, she was very gorgeous. She seemed to have looked young for her age, given the photos I've seen of her.
Yes.
Daniel Lewin, like I mentioned earlier, he was the co-founder of a company called Akamai Technologies.
Omni?
Akamai, yes. And then there were some prominent people that have missed the flight. Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane. He was scheduled to be on the flight, but
Yeah.
overslept due to a hangover and arrived at the airport too late, which would be
Doesn't
considered a blessing in
surprise
disguise.
me. Doesn't surprise me with Seth MacFarlane.
Great.
No offense.
No
I
offense
did
taken.
get. Huh?
No offense taken.
I meant to everyone else who might be watching. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if he was late for his doctor's appointment for that same reason.
I see. There
Mm-hmm.
is actor Mark Wahlberg. He was scheduled to be on the flight, but then changed his plans and canceled his ticket the day before. And then lastly, actress Leanne Littrell, who was the wife of Backstreet Boys singer Brian Littrell. She was also booked on the flight, but ultimately changed her plans.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Oh, and one more thing. The criminals behind 9/11 have since been caught, and because of the events, a lot of things like real ID were implemented. Personally, for me, I
Yep.
hate real ID because that means if you don't have something like a real ID, you can't go on military bases and practically anywhere because of
Where
this.
there's government.
Yes, thanks 9/11. But as stated, we're focusing on
On the
more
victim,
prominent members of the casualties that occurred in Flight
not
11,
the
especially
dingbat.
not the dingbats, just the ordinary people, and
Yep.
as well as the famous victims of the flight as well.
Yes, everyone except for Twitters.
Either way, they will deeply be missed,
Yes, they will be.
especially Danny Lee. Danny Lee, rest in peace.
Yep.
Her spirit will live on in his daughter for sure.
Yes, his spirit will be in his daughter for sure. That's for sure.
And also rest in peace to David Engel and his wife. But most importantly, rest in peace to the flight attendants that did their best to save the lives of the people on the respective flight. They were the real MVPs that day.
Yes, they were.
Yep. And then Daniel Lewin, too, since
Yep.
he was a veteran and he tried his best to de
Stop.
escalate the situation and stop the terrorists. His
Well,
efforts will not go punished. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, that's right. As far as the dingbats, I rarely think about them unless I have a PTSD nightmare.
Right. So, with that being said and out the way, that will be the final video until the summer's over.
Yep.
If you like our content, or if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like the video. And if you like our other content, please be sure to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please be sure to turn on the notifications so you don't
The
miss
bell
out.
button.
So you don't miss out on a future video. That is when it comes at the end of summer or when it cools off.
Mm-hmm.
We will see you this Thursday on the final Ducky Alien video for the summer.
And
After that, we will resume in the fall because there's literally no AC on my end, so the heat is going to fry up my computer. Yes, the heat will fry up my computer, and I do not want to lose my computer for heat-related reasons. So it is important. So
So
it is important
everything
that,
cools down.
yes, everything will cool down in the fall. So until then, please enjoy your summer. And as always, stay safe out there.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.